So, hi guys. So I was looking for the deposition transcript of Katie Case yesterday to do with to do at the same time I was doing Leslie Sloan's and all the other women. Um, Honestly, this docket is now so big, it's like trying to walk through a war zone and not step on a landmine. Um, Things are getting harder to find, and some of them are not labeled properly either, which just makes it even more delightful. So, I wanted to go through this. Yeah, it's not too long, like the others. It's just small snippets. But I've had a cursory skim, and there are some really funny moments. So we'll do this. But then I'm going to roll into a text message thread between James Vituscka and I believe it's Melissa Nathan. So, okay, so this is Katie Case. Again, as usual, not sure who is doing the questioning, which side's doing the questioning. So we'll get there, but she's answering, I'm not entirely sure. And then she's asked, what other employees worked at TAG when you joined? So she says, Carolina was there, Brianna was there, Riley was there, and Alex was there. That is, and then she continues, and Melissa as well. So 6, I suppose. Is that Carolina Hurley, Brianna Coslow, Alex Seeley, and Riley Long? That's correct. And were you more senior than those individuals? Carolina, Brianna, and I would have all been senior level employees. Did you all have the same job title? At the time, I don't believe so. What was your job title? When I started, I was a senior director. After a few months, I became a vice president. And at the time, what were Brianna and Carolina's job titles? I believe vice president. Did your job title change again during the time that you were at TAG? No. And in August 2024, were you, Brianna, and Carolina all vice presidents at TAG? I believe so, yes. What was Melissa Nathan's reputation in the industry at the time you joined TAG? Melissa is known to be a very successful publicist. Did she have any reputation with respect to crisis work? She is quite renowned in the area of crisis. What do you think makes her so effective? Melissa is incredibly strategic. She is very calm in the face of stress, and she is very good with client management. He then starts to ask a question, but I won't bother because we are now changing and going to a different page. We are part of the way through one of Katie Case's answers, so we don't know the question. And she says, colleagues believe at the time that due to the conversation taking place majority on social, they would benefit from it. Oftentimes, in today's landscape, conversations that would start in social make their way in traditional media. Did TAG take into account the fact that online conversations make their way in traditional media when it formulated digital and social strategies? Yes. Which of the services that we've discussed did TAG provide to Wayfarer and Baldoni? They would have been more of what I refer to as a crisis-based project. So we were brought in because it is my understanding that there were negative overtures being discussed with different media outlets. This was in advance of the New York premiere, and it was important to ensure that the Wayfarer parties were protected against negative attacks. When you say negative attacks, what are you referring to? It was my understanding at the time that certain false statements had been made to media in regards to the Wayfarer parties. How did you reach that understanding? It was communicated to me that certain stories would be in place with outlets that would be potentially detrimental due to the false nature of the stories. Who communicated that to you? Melissa. Anyone else? It was a topic of discussion on many phone calls. Phone calls with clients who were part of the Wayfarer account. That's correct. And who attended those phone calls? It would depend. And then she says, the first conversation I had was with Jamie and Tara. From there, it depended on, Jen Abel would join, Melissa would be on. Sometimes she wasn't able to. Sometimes Justin would be on. It would depend on who was available. What false statements did you understand had been made to the media? I'm not sure specifically, but it was my understanding at the time that there were certain allegations made about making Ms. Lively feel uncomfortable and a separate story about Mr. Baldoni's faith. And at that time, had those had, in your view, already been placed? The conversations were ongoing with the media. Where did you reach? How did you reach your understanding that these were false? In many conversations had with the Wayfarer parties. Falsity as to these stories, and then we go to a different page. Okay, so just to set the scene here, I guess. She worked for Tag, but she also previously worked for Jones Works. And there was a lot of speculation that Stephanie Jones relies on psychics. So I am going to go out on a limb here and assume that that is what we're talking about. Okay. Was it unusual to you? In my workday, it was unusual comparatively to most client calls. It was unusual to you, correct? In the scope of most client calls, yes. What about just generally? Was it unusual? I don't. And then she's asked, what was the psychic's name? I don't remember. Was it a male? It was. How would individuals at Tag communicate with each other when working on this account? Oh, was it a Tag account? Okay. She says primarily text. iMessage? Yes. Signal? Not really, no. Sometimes. At times. When would Tag individuals use Signal in lieu of iMessage? If we would speak with Jed, it was primarily over Signal. And why was that? I'm not sure. Was that at Jed's request? No. Who suggested that you use Signal? It was just the form of communication that was used. Do you recall the first time you communicated with Jed on Signal? Not by date, specifically, no. Did he text you on Signal? Not individually, but as it related to communications. Did you have a Signal account prior to working at Tag? I believe so, yes. And did you communicate on it? We are now going to a different page. Halfway through a question, not too impressed with other cast members of the film. And that's been asked as a question, but we don't know the context. Her response. And just in general, whenever there are certain conversations happening online and a client is going to do a full slate of interviews, it can be helpful to run through messaging, talking points, things of that nature. And this references navigating obstacles. Do you see that? I do. And it references creative differences. Do you see that? I do. Were these intended to refer to differences with Miss Lively? It was just useful language. He was a director and actor on the film. Directing any movie, there is going to be obstacles that a director is faced with. Creative differences is a pretty common phrase used in the entertainment industry. And here, was that referring to Miss Lively? It could be just referring to his experience as a director navigating working with a lot of personalities on set. Did you have Miss Lively in mind when you suggested this language? Given the situation, we were accounting for Miss Lively. Do you see at 9:32 a.m. Miss Abel refers to statements made by Mr. Baldoni in the junket, and she says that he used the word friction. Do you see that? I do. That's referring to Mr. Baldoni using the word friction? I believe so. I wasn't with him at that interview. And she says, I think it's important to get ahead of it. Do you see that? I do. What do you. Oh, yeah. What did you understand that to mean? And she starts to say, given the intention, but then we go to a different page. She's coming to the end of an answer, Melissa at the time, and then she's asked, and do you know whether Tag received multiple quotes? Melissa told me that there were 2 quotes. Do you know what the quotes were? Offhand, I can't remember the specific amount. Sorry. My ring doorbell. Offhand, I can't remember the specific amount, but my assumption is one was from Rosa and one was from Jed, but I can't confirm that. What is street relations? It's my understanding that Jed's company. And did you and Tag regularly work with street relations? When appropriate, if a client required social or digital mediation or remediation, rather, we would work with Jed as one of the contractors. And in this case, specifically with respect to the Wayfair account, we did work with Jed. Who else did Tag work with? And then we are heading to another page. And then she's been asked specifically about James Vituscka. And did you communicate with Mr. Vituscka about Miss Lively at all? Yes. What about? I was connected with him via Melissa Nathan. I was told he was writing a piece for the Daily Mail about how her promotion matched that of Taylor Swift's during her Eras tour. And did you provide him content in connection with his writing that article? I provided links that were readily available online. And did you read the Ultimate article when it came out? I did. And was that the article entitled How Blake Lively Copied Best Friend Taylor Swift to Promote It Ends With Us before turning to singer to help Crisis manage backlash and Justin Baldoni drama? She says, if that was a story that had James's name on it, then I assume that is. Okay, so we're on a different page. She's answering. Again, I'm not entirely sure if this is the same timeline, but to my recollection, nothing would have caused me to feel anything was a misrepresentation. Miss Case, who is paying your legal expenses? Her lawyer objects. She says, I'm not entirely sure. You don't know? No. Who do you think is paying your legal expenses? There's objection. I'm not sure. Are you paying him? I personally am not. Are the Wayfarer parties? And then there's objection. I'm not sure. Have you had a conversation with anyone regarding who is paying your legal expenses? There's another objection. She says, I was given indemnification based on these things happening during my employment at Tag. Indemnification by Tag? It's my understanding, but again, I'm not entirely sure. You're being provided a document that is being marked at Case Exhibit 26. Do you recognize this document? Yes. What is it? A text thread between Brianna and myself. Any reason to believe that this document has been altered since it was originally made? I don't believe so. Interesting questioning. If you flip 2 pages to the document numbered 3479 at 10:56 a.m., do you see that you sent a screenshot to, and then we go into a different page again? How is your relationship with Melissa now? I have a great deal of respect for Melissa. She has been my mentor for almost a decade. How is your relationship? Conversations have been limited, but again, I hold nothing but respect for Melissa. Has your relationship been strained by this whole case? I don't believe so, no. Has Melissa indicated that's the case? No. Did you leave Tag because you were unhappy at Tag? No. Why did you leave Tag? I was offered a more fortuitous opportunity. When was that? That would have been late December, early January. Okay, and that's the end of that deposition. Interesting. I do want to see Stephanie Jones' deposition. I think there is a portion of Stephanie Jones's deposition which I will. Do you know what? I might actually go and look for it. But I'll do James Vituscka text messages first because they kind of follow on quite nicely. Okay, so there are 36 pages of this. I think quite a bit of it's redacted. And again, it's annoying that there's no, different color for each side. So I think the ones on the right, on no, I can't even think it. So on the right-hand side, I believe are James Vituscka, and on the left-hand side, I believe are Melissa Nathan. I don't know for sure it's Melissa Nathan, but there are some indicators that make her, I think, the strongest contender. Okay, so we are starting with James Vituscka. Also to Leslie that I dug around on my own and got information after I talked to her. Tell. Okay, so he misspelt a word, right? Okay. I'm gonna say Melissa, so I am gonna refer to name as Melissa, but if I'm wrong about who this is, then I will apologize and I will correct it as soon as that information becomes known to me. But I do think this is Melissa Nathan. Okay, so Melissa, don't worry. No. There's no way. James. So can I just tell Emma, my editor, that everything is accurate? Sorry, in sec. I just needed to show Emma a text that says it's accurate so that we can move forward with it. It doesn't leave me and Emma. Absolutely. It's me, no, hold on. Absolutely, it's me. You know that I'm a complete volt and I'm fully on your side. James, or you can speak to her. Melissa, she's calling me back. Don't worry. That's something you shouldn't worry about. Off record, we got your email and we don't have a comment from us, but fine to run. And then she sends a TikTok video and says, also the PAP story, please, for Trav. No idea who that is. James, please tell Leslie to not tell Colleen I spoke to Colleen. I swore on my life and also told her to never say we spoke. I'm extremely worried about this and should never have said her name. Interesting. So we're Colleen Hoover's in the mix of all of this. Please tell Leslie to not tell Colleen that I spoke to Colleen. Okay, so Leslie Sloan is aware James Vituscka has spoken to Colleen Hoover, and he does not want Leslie Sloan to tell Colleen Hoover that she knows he spoke to her. Okay, just to kind of simplify that a little bit. I'm extremely worried about this. Should never have said her name. I told her to deny if anyone asks if she spoke. Melissa, I promise. And there's a bunch of redacted stuff. James, Ryan Reynolds was not a fan of Justin. He thinks he needs a little humility when it comes to learning his craft. He should sit down and shut the fuck up and listen to someone who knows what they're talking about. Interesting. You see, because Justin Baldoni had a lot more experience than Blake Lively in terms of producing, writing, directing, so on and so forth, awards. Yeah, I'm going to bring this up actually at this point. This is a really good time to do this. Okay, so someone actually did put together this kind of bar chart comparing experience and credits between Justin Baldoni, who is in purple, and Blake Lively, who is in the orange. All right, so this isn't mine. This is from Team Justin Baldoni on Reddit. So, in terms of being an actor, Justin Baldoni has been credited 32 times compared to Blake Lively's 31, so very close. In terms of being a producer, Justin Baldoni has 36 credits compared to PGA Blake Lively, 3 credits. 2 of them, by the way, are for upcoming projects. So It Ends With Us was actually her first time as a producer. Director, 14 times for Justin Baldoni, 1 for Blake Lively, and you can guarantee it'll be that ridiculous Taylor Swift music video. As a writer, Baldoni's been credited 3 times. Lively's been credited once. Awards, 1. These are awards that have actually been won. Justin Baldoni 33 times, Blake Lively 8. Nominations, these are for awards nominated, obviously, but not won. 26 for Lively and 8 for Baldoni. That's the only category she actually scores higher than him. But in fairness, if you all the ones he actually won as well, the 33 awards that he won technically were nominations. So, he would still beat her. Yeah, so when Ryan Reynolds is blasting Justin Baldoni because he thinks that Justin Baldoni should sit down and shut the fuck up and listen to someone who knows what they're talking about. It's actually Blake Lively that should have done that because he has the more experience. Justin Baldoni has far more experience. So then they go on to talk about, and we don't know if it is, in response to what James says about Ryan Reynolds or whatever is redacted above that. But Melissa says he bloody loved him. He's leaving his wife for him. And I don't think it's connected to Ryan Reynolds because I've never seen Ryan Reynolds say that. And then James says allegedly. And Melissa says, I like mine better. I don't know what she's talking about there. Her wife. I don't know. And something is obviously redacted. James then says, okay, so the other story involving Justin is basically this. I've heard that there is a second side to the story, which is that Blake and Ryan put a ton of money into the film, thinking that we give them complete creative control, and that didn't work out for them. And Sony said, fuck you, nice try. They threatened to fire her, and she was pissed off. One of them stating that she was there every day. Melissa says he cannot disprove this. James, okay, so the other story involving Justin is basically this. I've heard that there is a second side to the story, in which is that Blake and Ryan put a ton of money into the film, thinking that we give them complete control. What? Oh, I think she's responding to that message actually, because she then says, I don't think this is true. James says, oh, really? Interesting. More BS from Steph Jones' world. So Stephanie Jones has a reputation, it seems. And then Melissa seems to reply to that message again, so I'm not going to read it. And she says, the IP in the film on the rights are owned by Wayfarer. Sony owns a part. Sony doesn't own a part. But it's not as perfect as you would think, from what I've heard. I can't believe there is so much interest in this. I literally didn't know who he was until last week. And then James responds to that message as well. I think as someone inside of her camp was trying to spin things back in his favour, the story that I did got 470,000 views so far. And then he sends, I don't know, is it a GIF or something like painting fingernails? Or is that a dig at the nail polish thing with Colin Hoover? I doubt it, but it's fun speculating on some of the stuff in this case. Melissa says that's absolutely insane, but well done. And then he replies to that that original message about Blake and Ryan putting money in the film again. Super interesting if Blake and Ryan didn't really try to hijack the movie with their money, though, because this was sworn to me. I mean, he's not far wrong. They hijacked the movie. They just didn't put any of their money into it. They got Wayfarer and Sony to put all their money into it. He then says, people are such full of shit. And then says, yeah, I think he's supposed to be correcting it to some people. Some stuff redacted. Okay. Melissa, sorry. As you can see, I got swept up in a fucking whirlwind of shit. James, wait, what? Girl, I can't see nothing. I'm just trying to get Rebel up today. Lol. She says, I hate it. Oh. She then says, I hate everyone. He says, what the fuck? Who is Brian Marks, Adam Levy, and why are they dripping your name? Oh shit, it's the Hollywood Reporter. Melissa says, 5 minutes. He says, okay, you're a star. She says, oh please, still on the phone. He says, prop planted by Hilzik. She says, I'm such a loser, you know it, lol. He says, he has a vendetta, upset about Depp leaving for you. Well, and everyone. She said, I just found out Stephanie Jones is the one pushing out the story on me. He says, manage your crisis. She says, I don't know why the fuck she keeps going after me. He said, of course. Why would she push the story out on you if that was her client? Or did she lose him? She says, he's gone in 2 weeks. He says, oh, signing with you? Not for a story, lol. She says, I cannot. He says, it's going to look like you planted all this. I think she's doing it on purpose. She says, that's what I'm saying, James. That's what I keep saying. He says, and you can barely make it out, but I can see, I hope you've talked to Leslie. She says, she knows. He says, okay, good. Then she says, we had an hour chat last night. He says, so all that stuff I came with Leslie to on Friday ended up coming to fruition, just not through our outlet. I refrained from doing it to put out the truth, and I feel like I should be rewarded. Lol. There is something missing with all of this, and nobody has gotten it yet. I just know something had to happen. That was like a definitive fuck you. This is not all over attitude and everything. It's something bigger. And as much as I love Leslie, Blake is getting a lot of hate right now because of the fact that she's promoting this movie as if it's a comedy. Justin's smart. He's in Switzerland, wherever the fuck he's at, talking about the seriousness of the film. Nice work. Lol. With family, foreign land, supporting abused women charities, a true feminist. Perfection. The victim of a hate campaign brought on by evil witch Blake and her power-hungry empire husband Ryan. You are Richard Gere. If you don't know what I mean, cue one of the best movie scenes of all time. And then he sends a clip of a film. James keeps saying, I'd be amazing in crisis PR, like for real, lol. Puck. I knew this would happen. She says, I'm going to go swimming because I'm at the hotel and I've been in the room up on the phone since 7 a.m. So I'm going to ignore all messages for 30 minutes. He says, yes, please do. I sent the banner to Leslie. She should have given me something to refute it with, but hadn't responded. And this is what happens when I don't have anything better to put out to shut this down. Then some stuff redacted. She she sends, Rod Stewart, have I told you lately that I love you? He asks, are you in the hurricane? Ernesto. She says, I am. He says, oi. Hashtag 2 and hashtag 3, story right now. Actually, 2, 3, and 4. She says, even the message last night sent out by the studio really backfired on Variety because when they doubled down that way, it looks even worse and it looks like Ryan has forced the studio to make something which she did. Melissa, the answer re money is no. I don't know what that is about. He says, okay, perfect. And she was never, sorry, my throat's going. And she was never threatened to be fired. What the fuck happened? This is missing something big. Why won't Justin just get honest and be like, this is what happened? Then the shit would go away. She says, honest to God, because your spidey senses are up. I know what you're saying. He says, lol. She says, but truly, there is no massive thing or expose. It's a bunch of little things that they're not even able to come out with because it looks ridiculous. She says, the more I just posted. If they didn't use Blake's cut of the movie, that Taylor Swift song wouldn't be able to be used. But I'm getting a list for you. He says, is this all true? She says, what? He says, the demoir. It's very informative. She says, oh, she's got good connects, but I don't know if all. He says, love the letter and co-star comments. Need something to turn in, even just a few examples. It's cut off. I can't make it out, that top message there, because it's covered by the blue writing. But he says, not mine, fuck. She says, lol, that's what I said. Yours is so different and better, though. He says, yeah, this is a reach. It's okay, it just builds up momentum. She says, was just writing that, as your one will have a banging headline and points twin things out. It's different. RW wants to chat and say hi tomorrow. Are you too busy moving? Just 5 men. I don't know who RW is. He says, I'd love to. Then they post, then she sends like an Instagram post about Betty Buzz. And says, to be honest, this is insane marketing considering the topic. I feel a little slighted. He says, I told Leslie today that if Blake was ever going to start a charity for abused women, now would be the time. I mean, she's not. She's just claiming to be one. She says, sure, but also looks way too performative if she did. Is that a word? I think she meant performative, and I think that's why I was struggling trying to say it as well. It's just not a word. What she needs to do is not double down by saying she isn't speaking on this, but actually speak on it. She should say, I got into this film for all the right reasons. I'm a giant proponent of women's rights and always have been. I hate being in this position to even make this statement, but, blah, 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 like on her life. She needs to be relatable. Also, I hope you told Leslie Sloan literally all of this hate is organic. Vituscka, what's that mean? Organic? Does James Vituscka not know what organic means? Melissa, I think she feels all the social stuff is me, but it's organic. It's not manufactured. And remember, just in kind of in line with that comment from Melissa Nathan, I think she thinks all the social stuff is me, but it's organic. if you think back to what Leslie Sloan was saying in her deposition, yesterday's video, was that her suspicion that Justin Baldoni was smearing Blake Lively was based on nothing more than the fact that he hired Melissa Nathan. But also, she said Melissa Nathan told her that she wasn't doing anything to smear Blake Lively, and that she had been brought on to stop Justin smearing Blake Lively. So it's good to think about all of these things and put them all together. When she says that she thinks Leslie Sloan thinks all of the backlash is Melissa Nathan. Leslie Sloan, by her own admission, had absolutely nothing to base that on other than Justin Baldoni hired Melissa Nathan. An assumption was made from that. Okay, we continue. Okay, so James Vituscka, yes. Did you tell Leslie to stop having her to interviews? She stopped trying to control Daily Mail because we've literally done 1,000 posts on Blake now. Oh my God, we ran Taylor while I was out moving. Thank you again. I just noticed. And Leslie, no response. I think that top one says fire. She can recover if Leslie plays cards right. My new place has a view. He says, yes, did you tell Leslie to stop having her to interviews? She says, she's not really talking to me, to be honest, which is fine. He says, I got you back to Leslie. She says, call me on that. He says, oops, sorry. I told her that you've not told me one word, anything anti-Blake, which you haven't. Then he sends a thumbs up. She says, she lost it at me. And James, I would tell you, we are close enough now, and we've been through a few wars, and I consider you an actual friend no matter what. I don't even care if you do anything negative on my clients, because that's both of our jobs. But she completely lost it at me and told me that she had a reporter read out a text verbatim that I had written. And I laughed because if I was doing that, I would never do it on text. Honest to God, I've done nothing. This was so easy, and there have been about 30 pieces of press on me calling me a genius, and I didn't do anything. I usually do. It was super organic. She thinks I've paid for TikToks. I didn't even have TikTok until last week when I needed to see what people were saying about me online. But I have a theory. He says, the reporter definitely was not me. I told her straight up, no. She says, and I'm really fucking pissed off about my theory. I didn't talk to anyone else. He says, what's your theory? Want me to call you? She says, yes. Also, thank you for standing up for me. I will forever do the same for you. He says, it's what friends do. I mean, who else would you tell your bitch use the Zoom beauty filter? It's everything. She says, we need Zoom with filters. He says, and I love that it doesn't have anything noting that you're using it, so like nobody knows. That's the best. I hate when TikTok does that shit. She says, Billy for the win. He says, you think? Please save that Ryan Reynolds story for me. Ryan Reynolds broke strike to secretly direct major film as wife Blake Lively's career takes nosedive. Blake Lively forces husband Ryan Reynolds to break strike to direct It Ends With Us. She says, I'm not commenting on any of... He says, no, just point me in direction of statistics available. I will say, I just gave it some thought about when this film began production. She says, let's chat Monday. Lol. He says, Deadpool. Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds betrayed actor pals by breaking strike to secretly direct wife Blake Lively's controversial film, It Ends With Us. Okay, I'm done. Deadpool is great, though. It is. Lol. She says, I'm not commenting, as Leslie's going to kill me if she feels I've got anything to do with it. Lol. He says, I have the best story for you in the world. You're going to die. Call me when you can. It's why reps should never lie. Can we discuss this tomorrow? Can you give me anything off the record? I refuse to talk to Leslie Sloan. She's full of shit. She says, I'm so tired. Can we chat in the morning? Love the way she's saying she didn't start this or play stories. I didn't play stories. Me. It was organic, as you know. Super tired. Her and Stephanie Jones are ruining 9 women and their families, and none of us have silver spoons. He says, which 9 women? Blake, Lindsay, Katie? I will help get the truth out there to millions tomorrow. Leslie fucked me hard this week on a story that she told me info on. She says, you know the truth of it. He says, then said sorry she lied and tried to get it taken down when she was the source. He says and then whatever that is redacted. So he's telling her what the story was about, but it's redacted. He says, I do 100%. Justin never sexually assaulted Blake. She's trying to play victim to salvage her career and reputation after it went down the drain because she is a bitch. And everybody knows it. She and Ryan tried to heist the movie and make it theirs when Ryan had no place doing anything to begin with. She talks about changing the scenes. Ryan added a fucking scene and rewrote it. I'll get all of this out there tomorrow. Truth must be told again. She says, and my text is all tongue in cheek because we were like, look how good I am, because we did nothing. It was organic. He says, not Blake's lying victim narrative. Anyone who knows you knows that. She says, I'm so quiet as a person. I'm so loyal. I help everyone. So this has crushed me. He says, oh no, you can't. It will pass. She says, Stephanie Jones took Jen Abel's phone and gave it to Leslie Sloan while still under contract with Justin Baldoni. So she gave private information while he was still a client. There is no subpoena. That's made up, but they cherry-picked text. What smear? The smear was organic. So when she says, at the time, she was not aware of Van Zandt, obviously, at the time of these messages. We obviously now know that there was the Van Zandt subpoena, which may as well have been no subpoena for the lack of ethics and morals that went into it. Okay, he says, Leslie Sloan has a personal vendetta against you, and I know this because she's told me. I know. He says, that has to play into the lawsuit. She said I ruined her client's reputation to my face. He says, I'll back you on that. She says, when I did nothing. He said, on the stand if I need to. She says, thank you. I tried to be so fair and I didn't place one story. You know, I didn't. He says, or affidavit, whatever it takes. Now, one thing I will say, just take a moment here to kind of reflect. I have been incredibly critical of James Vituscka. Initially, I was incredibly positive about him, really positive and supportive, because it seemed like he was gonna, he was telling the story. It was in Wayfarer's favor, and it seemed to back up what they were saying. And they were having, it was like text in real time, like where he was sort of like, but she never said anything about being sexually harassed. Where's this come from? Kind of thing. And then he did a declaration saying that Wayfarer forced him to do this, forced him to that, right? So that pissed me off because I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. He was represented. No one made him do anything. So I was like, okay. Then we had another declaration, which what did it do? Where was I? Avid. Yeah, I got to the Avid or Avid David, whatever. Yeah, so I was reflecting, wasn't I? Yeah, so I don't know. I suppose I think I understand. James Vituscka has chopped and changed with declarations. He's also chopped and changed with lawyers who are representing him. He has recently changed lawyers again, so I'm curious to see what comes next. I'm hoping that he will now just tell the truth. However, I think I'm a little concerned that his credibility is already, it's kind of in the gutter at this point. So, anyway. Okay, so he says, "Oh, David, whatever it takes." She says, "I don't need to." He says, "No, she placed him, and Steph Jones is the worst." She says, "Of course, Leslie and Stephanie, dream team." He says, "She wants screenshots. Here you go." The vendetta is laid out in her words in many texts. Feel free to use them. So he tells her to feel free to use them, right? But then he signs a declaration saying he didn't give consent for his text messages to be used. And that's what I'm talking about when I say I've got such an issue with James Vituscka and the many sides of his face that he talks out of. It's stuff like this. He literally signed a declaration saying that he never consented to Wayfarer using his text messages. But here he is telling Melissa Nathan, feel free to use my texts. She says, "Thank you, thank you." He says, "I've got more, just let me know." She says, "Send all. I'm on with Brian re cross complaint, which you will get first." The crazy thing, re New York Times, is that they did a story that's all planned and smear like and said we were like, what? And my job is crisis, in which Leslie Sloan works on crisis. He says that shows what a liar she is. She said the whole cast hates Justin this morning, nothing to do with Blake, and now she's saying that Blake was sexually assaulted. Why wouldn't she say anything about that then? She knows she's full of shit. She told me the whole issue was that everybody hates Justin, nothing about Blake and Justin. She said it has nothing to do with Blake. Bullshit. She says, I know. It's Brian Friedman. Lol, Andy. Is there any way it could be really high up in the story? Andy. Who's Andy? Oh, I don't know. We'll figure that out. He says this was sent to the news desk who wrote it. I cannot tell them where to include it, but it's in the first third. Told him to fix Andy. She says thank you. He says my editor wants to hold out for the cross complaint, since that will likely have it all in there. She says that won't be till Jan. He says, oh shit. Let me see what we can do. This was from our editor in chief. She says, it's not fair because they cover everything else. He says, I'm trying to see what we can do. Stand by. Then he says, I love Brian. He loves Brian. This is not what not what he said in the declaration. He said that he felt manipulated and misled by Brian Friedman. Melissa Nathan, me too. He says, we are running it. Thank you. She says, thank you. He says, she said Stephanie Jones is a liar, then asks for details of the people on her team. Then she says she will have the whole cast go on record. I'll send to Friedman. Hey, can we get any more information on Redacted? Anything about how she's handling it if she's leaning on Pookie? Who the fuck is Pookie? What's Pookie? All of these stories have done so well. She says, honestly, I'm too in the middle of all this stuff. They've been really quiet. I think our next call is the 26th. Stephanie Jones has now put out a thing that she's suing me and Jen. I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't even work for you. He says, what? Sorry, I'm trying to capture the drama, the tone. I may not be doing it well, but I'm trying to capture the tone. Just read docs. Just read docs. This is getting insane because they're not telling the truth. She says, I know. Imagine how I feel. I was hired for a job for 2 months. He says, this will blow over, but you can understand how stressful it must feel. The truth will prevail. We both know the type of people that Leslie and Stephanie are. It will come out in the wash. That thing you sent me, who wrote it? What thing? Oh, fuck. Matt Maloney and Eric Gardner. Oh, he says, oh, who are they? Where was it published? It was really good. She says, it's the biggest trade newsletter. It's huge. It's famous. If you sign up, you'll get it. You will get 2. He says, sweet, I'll sign up. I really need to stay on top of all of this stuff with you because I want to break all of it. I have a feeling that this script will flip because they fucked up and everyone is so anti-Justin that they're going to be anti-everything. That when he comes with, because they have to be like, because a whole feminist Me Too shit, no one still likes Blake. They're just pretending they do because of a victim mentality and a powerful hubby. Just saying. She says, hi, can you talk in 30? He says, yeah. She says, tried you. Just invited you to Signal. Join Signal. I'm going to send you the stuff. Then call me back after you listen to the voice note. He says, okay. Check your Signal. Check the Signal. And then this looks like a statement from Friedman. In this vicious smear campaign, fully orchestrated by Blake Lively and her team, the New York Times cowered to the wants and whims of 2 powerful, untouchable Hollywood elites, disregarding journalistic practices and ethics, once befitting of the revered publication by using doctored and manipulated texts and intentionally omitting texts which dispute their chosen PR narrative. In doing so, they predetermined the outcome of their story and aided and abetted their own devastating PR smear campaign designed to revitalize Lively's self-induced floundering public image and counter the organic groundswell of criticism amongst the online public. The irony is rich. I love Friedman. Make no mistake, however, I'm saying this almost as like in the same way that Prez Hilton would say, make no mistake. However, as we all unite to take down the New York Times by no longer allowing them to deceive the public, we will continue this campaign of authenticity by also suing those individuals who have abused their power to try and destroy the lives of my clients. While their side embraces partial truths, we will embrace the full truth and have all of the communications to back it. The public will decide for themselves as they did when this first began. Brian Friedman. Absolutely love it. Okay, we are coming towards the end of this. I will go look for the Stephanie Jones transcript though. See what that's got. He says, hey, can you please call me? I don't know what's going on, but no matter what it is, I can take it. For 3 weeks, all I wanted was this declaration to be withdrawn. Oh. This is on June the 29th, by the way. This is interesting. This is after he wrote I'm going to look up my James Vituscka declaration because I want to be kind of going with this at the same time. So, June the 6th. Okay. I'm going to show you my post at that time before I get into that because this is a whole new era. So this was my post at the time. James Vituscka signs a declaration. I'm just going to say that I called it. I fully believe he was feeding Melissa Nathan bullshit, or at least changed the story depending on who he was talking to. I'm not convinced he slipped up because he would have been subsequently asked about his comments and he didn't correct him at that point or at any point after Wayfarer's original complaint or their amended complaint. I don't believe that don't believe he didn't expect to see the text in filings. And that's what I just said, right? We just seen his text message saying, feel free to use them. I'm sending this to Brian Friedman. You're sending text to Brian Friedman in the context of there's a lawsuit pending. Expect those texts to be used in the lawsuit. Like, what the fuck? But he signed a declaration. We will look at the declaration as well because I'm mad now. I don't believe he didn't expect to see the text in the file, and he was in direct communication with Friedman. And if he didn't want them disclosed, he doesn't appear to have made that clear. This is what I'm saying here now. But also, they are Melissa Nathan's side of the communications, and he can't request that they are not produced or included in a legal document. First, to confirm, Sloan cannot use this to bolster her motion to dismiss. So before anyone says she's off the hook, she's not, because the motion to dismiss was already briefed. Second, Wayfarer will be able to test this like any other piece of evidence, such as discovery or testimony. So this is not the end of the matter. It merely served a purpose as far as Sloan was concerned. I don't think this is a problem at all for Wayfarer. The only point of interest for me was finding out Friedman was retained as early as July 2024, but that is also not a huge surprise because one of the texts in Exhibit A alluded to it. So let's have a look at this is James Vituscka's first declaration. And it reads, this is dated the June 4th. I, James Vituscka, declare as follows. I have personal knowledge of the facts set forth herein. I am the Daily Mail reporter that authored the text messages that appear at paragraph 193 in the Wayfarer Party's amended complaint in this action. In those text messages, my use of the phrase sexually assaulted was a mistake. I meant to say sexually harassed. I regret this error. Now, he may have made a mistake there. Right? He may have meant a different word. I don't know. Further, this phrase was in reference to the allegations in the complaint that Blake Lively filed with the Civil Rights Department in California. This phrase was not in reference to any conversation that I had with Leslie Sloan. Miss Sloan never told me that Miss Lively was sexually harassed or sexually assaulted by Justin Baldoni or anyone else. The Wayfarer parties and their counsel did not consult me about what I meant by my use of the term sexually assaulted. I did not authorize the Wayfarer parties or their counsel to include my text messages in their filings. He did. He says, I regret that private text messages were made public. I declare this under penalty of perjury. Okay. And this is why I get mad. This is why I get really mad, right? She wants the screenshots. Here you go. The vendetta is laid out in her words in many texts. Feel free to use them. I got more. Just let me know. Right? So I am just so bloody annoyed. Right? But hey, why don't we, check out another James Vituscka declaration? What date was this? It was August 24th. So on August the 21st, we had another declaration from James Vituscka where I say, this is a bit of a thread. I'm not going to read all of this, right? Now you say I'm actually balls. Okay, we'll do this. Yeah, we'll do this. So another declaration from James Vituscka. After saying nothing for 7 months to correct the record on the meaning of his words to Nathan Friedman, Vituscka signed a declaration in June to say he had mistakenly said sexual assault when he meant sexual harassment. Now he's saying he made it clear to Friedman and Nathan that Sloan never said sexual assault, and he's lost his job because of it. He's alleging that Friedman and his clients misled the court. Every filing of this guy that I've covered, I've questioned his honesty and whether he just changes his story depending on who he's talking to. This filing just solidifies that opinion. So this is a long, it's a long declaration. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking because I don't want to go through the whole thing. It's a long declaration, but I do just want to pick out specific points. Yeah, because he's kind of doubling down on his first. I'll tell you what. Actually, we're going to do it slightly different. So if we go, we're on these messages, right? And this is although I can't. Yeah, it's June the 29th. So this is after he's filed the declaration. Let's see what he says here between this point, the first declaration, and the second. He writes, "Hey, can you please call me? I don't know what is going on, but no matter what it is, I can take it. For 3 weeks, all I wanted was this declaration to be withdrawn because it's not truthful and contains info I told them not to include, and because I was forced to sign it. Now everyone's acting strange and no one responding to me." So she says, "Morning, I'm a little under the weather with a giant migraine." A giant migraine called James Vituscka. There's nothing else happening to my knowledge. I sent all to Brian Friedman. He didn't say much more to me. I'm not in direct contact with Mark. That'd be Mark Garagos, the attorney who was representing Friedman. I think it was Wayfarer put in touch with James Vituscka. I'm not in direct contact with Mark G over any of your situation at all. So there's nothing off happening at all our side. You need to get hold of marketing team and ask what the fuck is going on. I wish I had all the info on your stuff, but I don't. I'm drowning in our stuff and all the shit they are throwing at us nonstop. You have to ask him for a call ASAP and tell him you need a plan for this week. And you cannot just wait around and see, especially now you've lost your job due to Leslie Sloan's actions. They need to tell you what their plan is ASAP. He says, "Okay, thanks. I thought you were mad at me for some reason. I'm sorry you're not feeling good. This shit really takes toll on your body and mind." She says, "Oh my gosh, I'm not mad at you at all. I feel absolutely desperately unhappy for you. I feel so unhappy for you. It's made me even sadder. And yes, this has taken the biggest toll on all of us. Your mind, your body, exhaustion, and you can't sleep. And all because of some fucking egotistical maniac. Can't believe that no one liked her." That'd be Blake Lively. "I just can't believe I'm in this for the sake of a 3-week period." He says, "I can't believe the Daily Mail is blaming me for articles that they benefited from and fired me after I don't know what that means, after filed a whistleblower complaint alleging that I lied. And I said in court documents that Justin Baldoni assaulted Blake. This is what the company told me in their letter of termination." I was like, Jesus Christ, not this sentence again. They also said that I had to be removed from every story on Blake since January. Oh, why has he got to be removed from every story on Blake? Why is that necessary? Because, he was a member of staff. He was a reporter at the time and he wrote them. Why are they scrubbing him? And I've only done 92 in actuality. Anyways, it's all water and behind the bridge now. All we can focus on is the future. I'm praying that there will be a way for our truth to shine through. God, he's acting like he was in the thick of all of this. That he was kind of there holding Melissa Nathan's hand the whole time. She says same. He says, "Keep the faith. I'm always here for you. Sorry for the freak out." She says, "Listen, it's so hard to not freak out. I'm always here." And that's kind of how they leave it. So let's go back to this, shall we? His second declaration, which came 2 months later in August. So at the bottom, right, so in paragraph 8, he says, "In both the original and amended complaints filed by the Wayfarer parties and Mr. Friedman, I am described as having said that Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's longtime publicist, told me that Miss Lively claimed Mr. Baldoni had sexually assaulted her. The allegation is false. I never heard Leslie Sloan make any such statement whatsoever, and I never said she did to anyone." Then, in paragraph 10, I believe the impression that was left by my initial declaration was that I mistakenly told Miss Nathan and Mr. Friedman that Miss Sloane had told me that Miss Lively was sexually assaulted. This is not accurate. What the initial declaration did not convey is the following important additional detail. I expressly told both Melissa Nathan and Brian Friedman in text messages on December 25th, 2024, that Leslie Sloane never told me that Miss Lively was sexually harassed or sexually assaulted. Paragraph 11. Yet I've come to understand that the Wayfarer Party's defamation lawsuit against Miss Sloane and Miss Lively was based in part on the allegation that Miss Sloane told me that Miss Lively was sexually assaulted by Mr. Baldoni. Not only did that never happen, I told Miss Nathan and Mr. Friedman in writing on December 25th, 2024, that it never happened. I was shocked when I learned that these allegations in the amended complaint were based on a statement that was never made, after I had been very clear about that with both Miss Nathan and Mr. Friedman. Clarification of record. So, paragraph 12. To summarize, unequivocally, Miss Sloane never told me that Miss Lively was sexually harassed or sexually assaulted by Justin Baldoni or anyone else. Miss Nathan and Brian Friedman knew this as of December 25th, 2024. By filing, so this is paragraph 13, by filing a lawsuit based on falsely casting me as the source of a sexual assault allegation, Mr. Friedman, his clients, and those apparently aligned or acting in concert with them have caused immense harm, and I believe misled this court. They have damaged my reputation, cost me my employment, and undermined my career as a journalist. I submit this declaration to ensure the court and the parties have a complete record of my knowledge and that my name is not further misused in service of a false narrative or those who conceived it. So, yeah, I'm not going to look for Stephanie Jones's deposition transcript. This is too interesting. We will do this, okay, and then I will wrap up and I'll do Stephanie Jones's deposition transcript in another video. Okay. It's always fun to look back at my ex posts from some time ago, because I realize how I don't pull punches, put it that way. Okay. So this is another post I do. Let's compare and contrast the many conflicting statements of James Vituscka. I do caveat, this is not as comprehensive as I would like, but I'm still unwell with COVID, so I'm giving it what I've got for now. Okay. So I'm not going to do a bit, I'm also going to do a bit, not a complete, of a timeline of available information we have on this character. I'm also going to compare and contrast his statements with the statements that Without a Crystal Ball has alleged he sent to her. Because if you remember, he was in contact with Katie Joy. And compare and contrast his statements with the documents that Without a Crystal Ball has alleged he sent to her. Yeah, I have no way of verifying the truth or accuracy of them, so I am taking them as they are publicly presented. We saw Vituscka's text messages first appear in Wayfarer's California complaint against New York Times, and then in Wayfarer's complaint, an amended complaint against Lively et al. On May 1st, Sloane filed a motion to compel. I accidentally labeled it dismissed. And I put links to, like as I go through each point, I actually put links to the actual post where I'm referencing as well. So so people can go and see for themselves. I won't open them up though. Yeah, so Sloane filed a motion to compel, and I noticed an error in her footnote regarding Vituscka's text, and there I first speculated that Vituscka was either lying or playing Sloane and Nathan off against each other, because he told Nathan that Sloane was that Sloane was saying Lively was sexually assaulted. What was not clear at the time, at the date of the messages, what was not clear at the time was the date of the messages between Vituscka and Nathan. Around the end of May, Sloan filed a motion to compel where she made some good points, but I was waiting for Vituscka's response, and there's a link to that post. On May 29th, we got Vituscka's response, and I remember feeling that the arguments were strong and being very impressed with the response from Vituscka. So I was quite happy with that. So if we now go into the second part of the post, I say, and this is referring to the post I just read as well. On June 6th, Vituscka filed his declaration changing his story, and I openly stated that I thought he was full of shit. I mean, I'm to the point. I'm direct, which I did. You know, I definitely said it in that post when I was reading that post. I said, but I do go on to say, but we had the declaration that was submitted, and what is alleged by, without a crystal ball, to be red lines of that declaration that Vituscka sent to her. These red lines, if true, suggest that there may have been a minor misunderstanding between Wayfarer / Friedman and Vituscka at best, but nothing dishonest. That is an important point, which we will come back to later. Oh, I do go on. I'm not going to read all of this, but just the red lines. So this is what, without a crystal ball. I'll put links to these posts in the in either in the comments or in the description. So the red lines. Red lines are a lawyer's best friend, right? We use these all the time. I will show you a lawyer's Christmas card at the end of this, just for a little bit of fun. I appreciate I've gone over an hour. In this moment, I don't actually care too much about that, because I think it's important to kind of look at all of this, you know, and see where the discrepancies are. And I'd rather spend time on that, because I spent a lot of time putting up X posts as things were happening, as we were learning the information. So here's me now bringing back those X posts with the newly released text messages and deposition transcript, and going, okay, so what tracks and what doesn't? Red lines, we use them all the time. So this is his June 4th declaration. Point 2. I am the Daily Mail reporter that, and they've crossed out authored the text messages that appear at paragraph 193. And he has put, I did not author the text messages at paragraph 193. That was Friedman's slight error. That did not obviously end up on the, none of this, I think, none of these red amendments that Vituscka has put up here actually made it into the declaration. So I am guessing that he has annotated this after it's been filed. Okay. So change authored the text messages that appeared at paragraph 193 to, he has put, I did not author the text messages at paragraph 193. That was Friedman's slight error. He then says in paragraph 3, he's taken out those text messages and he's changed it to, the text messages on page 193 are from the lawsuit against New York Times, not against Sloan. He's also struck out the definition that his use of the phrase sexually assaulted was a mistake. He's taken out was a mistake. And he's replaced that with due to the fact that Friedman erred in paragraph 193, this has no relation to the text with me and Nathan on the same page. And then at the end, where it says, I regret this error, he has crossed that out and he has replaced it with, I told my former counsel and bosses in emails, texts, regret nothing. Paragraph 4. Apparently Sloan left this out conveniently to match her narrative and spin this into something it was not. Okay. He's taken out the whole of paragraph 5, or he has struck it anyway, and he has replaced it with Sloane never did tell me this because she was not sexually harassed or assaulted. The info Sloane gave me was very anti Baldoni, but she never mentioned assault or harassment, which is why I knew Blake was lying when the New York Times article came out. Also, I said that she had never said this to me in texts that were removed from the complaint when it was amended. Paragraph 6. So he has struck almost the entirety. So he struck the first line. The first line is the Wayfarer parties and their counsel did not consult me about what I meant by my use of the term sexually assaulted. What he has replaced that with is they would not need to consult me about what I meant because I never told them that she was assaulted or harassed. I never told them that Sloane told me this either. He then says, where it says, he says that he did not authorize the Wayfarer parties or their counsel. He has struck out the words not authorize, right? So that now reads as did authorize. And he says himself, he makes the point that I actually make, which is, I would not need to authorize them. The text included a party in the lawsuit. I told my former counsel this in emails. Where he is struck, I regret that private text messages were made public. He's crossed that out and he's replaced it with, I knew that they were using the info from the text in the lawsuit. I told my former counsel this in emails. Where he declares under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct to the best of his knowledge and belief, he has crossed out to the best of his knowledge and belief and replaced with, my former counsel told me that I only have to be certain to the best of my knowledge in an email after I challenged these statements many times. Okay. Is there anything else here? What is this? I mean, in this message that he sends to Without a Crystal Ball, right at the very bottom, that last paragraph, it says Leslie used this text message with Friedman in the context that I sent it prior to either lawsuit being filed. This text message with Friedman was followed up by a text message with Nathan, in which I agreed to let him use the text so long as my name and photo were removed. There was no reference to his name or photo being removed. We saw that. This is from someone from the Daily Mail to James Vituscka. This is the day before the declaration. It does, and I think I note here there seems to be that the Daily Mail were unaware that he had authorized the use of his text messages because they actually say here, I'm hesitant to waste Daily Mail's money on a call to even discuss this outrageous proposal. James should not be apologizing for an unauthorized inclusion of the text message in the complaint. If it were, as they note, unauthorized, why should he apologize? Not his fault. Okay. So Daily Mail were very much of the opinion that Daily Mail were very much of the opinion that James Vituscka had not authorized his messages to be used, but clearly that is not true. We saw the text message. Okay. So I try to dissect it a little bit here. As I say, even if he confirms that he mistakenly used assault instead of harassment, um, right. So he says that Sloan never told him that Lively was sexually assaulted. Right. That is here, and the use of my pink hearts. In both the original amended complaints filed by the Wayfarer parties and Mr. Friedman, I am described as having said that Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's longtime publicist, told me that Miss Lively claimed Mr. Baldoni had sexually assaulted her. That allegation is false. I never heard Leslie Sloan make such a statement whatsoever, and I never said she did to anyone. So his declaration then says, right, that he mistakenly used assault instead of harassment in all versions of his declarations, actually. Although there are other messages where it says she never said that to me, I took that to be referring to the time that Vituscka and Sloan were messaging back in August 2024. I took the message saying, and now she's saying Blake's been sexually assaulted to mean at the time of the CRD. I can see why Wayfarer relied upon it, and I think it was a simple misunderstanding caused by James Vituscka's poor choice of words. Great. And I do say great journalist. And I mean, I'm not reading all of this by any stretch. Then I do point out that there was a failure for him to correct the record at the earliest opportunity. Okay, so this is his second declaration, which is the longer one. Point 11, paragraph 11, sorry. Yet I have come to understand that the Wayfarer Party's defamation lawsuit against Miss Sloan and Miss Lively was based in part on the allegation that Miss Sloan told me that Miss Lively was sexually assaulted by Mr. Baldoni. Not only did that never happen, I told Miss Nathan and Mr. Friedman in writing on December 25th, 2024, that it never happened. I was shocked when I learned that these allegations in the amended complaint were based on a statement that was never made. So, and the point I make to that is, as you can see, James Vituscka claims he was shocked to see a statement he claims he never made be put into the amended complaint. However, he waited 7 months to correct it. Because this, as we know, this declaration was filed in August, end of August. Wayfarer amended their complaint beginning of February, 3rd of February. Then we have paragraph 13. By filing a lawsuit based solely casting falsely casting me as the source of a sexual assault allegation, Mr. Friedman, his clients, and those apparently aligned or acting in concert with them have caused immense harm and I believe misled this court. They have damaged my reputation, cost me my employment, and undermined my career as a journalist. What do I say to that? Well, let's look. He then goes on to say that this mistake by Friedman cost him his reputation, job, and career. But that is not true either. In his declaration, Vituscka claims that Friedman and Nathan misled the court, yet in communications sent to Without a Crystal Ball, he tells a different story. Let's see what that different story is. Oh, here it is. So, in blue. This is what he says to Without a Crystal Ball, right? In blue. She knew that this was a lie and misleading, and I consider it defamatory and part of a smear campaign. By the way, he's talking about Leslie Sloan. I consider it defamatory and part of a smear campaign against me because in Baldoni's initial complaint, which she received and pulled my text messages with her from, I clearly say never once did she ever say anything about sexual assault. This is in the above screenshot to the right, circled in green and underlined. I repeated this twice in the convo I had with Friedman and Nathan. This means that she also knew that Friedman knew this, but used it against him as well. Not giving him the chance to correct his small error of including Sloan said assault based on my text with Nathan. So, Vituscka claims that Friedman made a small mistake, which he claims Sloan never gave Friedman the chance to correct the record and capitalized on the error. Now, bearing in mind, in his declaration, certainly his second one, he claims that Friedman and his, various people working with him misled the court. Underneath that, he writes, she twisted my words and spun this to mislead the court, change the outcome of the case, and also portray me as a liar, so that any evidence that I have against her, which I do, will be considered unreliable. She wanted the press to run with me being a liar, and also that I was the reason the case was dismissed. So what I've summed that up, the orange bit. Here, Vituscka claims that it is Sloane who twisted his words and misled the court, a far cry from the tone of his multiple declarations, which almost read as amicus briefs for Sloane. And then I've given my verdict, unreliable. I'm not going to read into this too much. I might do a whole video on this. I mean, Without a Crystal Ball has done her own video, so. But Vituscka was negotiating with his former employer, and for some bizarre reason sent Without a Crystal Ball letters regarding his termination at Daily Mail. He sounds delightful and entirely stable, is what I noted. The communications confirmed that he did authorize the messages to be used, which contradict his declaration. Okay. Is there anything else? Yeah, so there's just a lot here. Basically, I mean, he wasn't just fired over this. He also damaged an elevator and did some other stuff as well. Again, it's not for now because it's not relevant to all of this. Okay. We also have communications which appear to confirm the truth regarding Lively's extortion attempt of Taylor Swift, and that her father, Scott Swift, stepped in and dealt with it. I always said that Friedman signing something as serious as an affidavit was the evidence I needed that they got something, that they were told something. I then go on to say, I hope Wayfarer respond to this latest gratuitous crap from Vituscka. I maintain my opinion that it wasn't necessary and it wasn't asked for. There was no need to file anything, and the breakneck speed at which both Lively and Sloane jumped to capitalize on its filing tells me there's more to the story. And the more to the story now that we know is, now we've seen Taylor Swift's text where she was fully aware of the whole dragons comment and kind of participated in it. I believe personally that Friedman was set up. I think they're still friends. They might not be now, but I believe I don't believe that they are so divorced from each other that they are not, in the habit of setting Friedman up. The way she dodged a deposition subpoena was just telling for me. Okay, so that's and then we know that James Vituscka filed new lawyers recently. Again, I think this is like his third or fourth set, much like his, catching up with his deposition, his declarations. I don't know where I sit with him. I know Cassidy is a little bit more forgiving at the moment with James Vituscka, but I do feel, right, and this is the annoying bit, I feel that he was manipulated by Leslie Sloane. I think he did have these conversations in good faith with Brian Friedman and Melissa Nathan. I do. I think he was very genuine in wanting to help Melissa Nathan. Now, whether that was at odds with him keeping his position at Daily Mail, who knows? Do I think, though, that the first declaration was, manipulated out of him? Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to think it was. I think what makes me really angry about the situation, though, is there was no need for the second one. Then to almost double down and say, no, Leslie Sloane did nothing wrong. Brian Friedman is the villain in all of this, when that is clearly not true. When you look at all the communications and the evidence, and again, I will post a link to this post, it's not true. So if he's trying to walk it back now, he's going to struggle. His credibility is shot. If Leslie Sloane's objective was to make him look unreliable, so his evidence and of their messages could not be used, she's done a very good job. Now, could the text messages still be used? Yes, because they were black and white in real time. So as long as they have not been edited very recently, There was no reason, and she would have a record of from her side of what was actually said. So, if anything that is edited from either side, it's quite easy to kind of demonstrate that. I mean, yeah, text messages should not be a problem. James Vituscka giving testimony, that's going to be a bigger problem because they will point to all of these changing stories. Okay, so I'm gonna. That was a lot. I always find James Vituscka an interesting character to talk about, and I do have to hold back from rants about him because I find him rather disingenuous. And the annoying thing is he does seem like the kind of guy who probably was trying to do the right thing and just got manipulated from side on side on side. However, he's not done himself any favors in the way that he has approached all of this. Okay, so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to then continue on with more deposition transcripts, I think. I've also got a news article because I think Ryan Reynolds has responded to the unveiling of his private text messages. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting read. All right, guys, I'll speak to you later.